horsepower than any other. The 427s are classic car and driver. Classic Car and Driver, a flashback to the archives and the machines of our automotive past.
In the long history of the Corvette, there are significant performance achievements chronicled in the pages of Car and Driver, like fuel injection in 1957, independent suspension in '63, and the 32-valve ZR1 in 1989. But if the question is raw factory horsepower, the all-time high water mark came in '66 and '67, when the number was believed to be well above 450 from the awesome 427 Big Block. 1966, Captain Kirk and the crew of the Starship Enterprise are beamed into our living rooms for the first time, and Chevrolet is busy experimenting with their own version of warp drive, the 427 cubic inch L72 Big Block. Corvette collector Rob Zimmerman has an original L72 in his '66 Stingray.
In 1966, Chevrolet decided they wanted the Corvette to be a pure performance car. They went flat out, and this car actually has 450 horsepower, the most that was ever put into a Corvette.
The first ride for Car and Driver editor Don Sherman made a big impression.
It was a change of life experience. I never felt acceleration like I experienced, didn't know it existed. It was the closest thing to riding the space shuttle off the launch pad.
And it was clear the editors of the 1966 Car and Driver yearbook agreed, writing, "Our test car kitties would do 0 to 140 in 17.0 seconds. This is known as fast in most circles." '63 was the introduction of the second-generation Corvette, the first to carry the Stingray name. Zora Duntov's new chassis was the first four-wheel independent suspension for the Vette, but the car was offered with the same engine lineup from the previous model. Over the next 2 years, power continued to grow, and in 1965, the Corvette got its first big block, the 396 cubic inch Mark IV. 1 year later, it was bored out, and the 427 cubic inch L72 thundered onto the scene.
It was rated at 12.8 mile at 112 miles an hour, straight from the factory.
0 to 60 times dropped to 4.8 seconds. Originally rated at 450 horses, Chevrolet voluntarily dropped the horsepower rating to 425 to help owners with insurance weights. This was done by quoting a lower RPM rating. The motor actually was unchanged. But whether rated at 450 or 425, the actual output was probably closer to 500 horses. The engine was now so big it had to be stuffed under a newly designed power bulge hood. The instrument panel held a tach and a 160-mile-per-hour speedo. The interior followed the car's performance nature, but options such as AM/FM radio and power windows were available. A 427 Vette sold for $5,000. The performance and price made it the best-selling model to date. More than 28,000 units sold in '66. But the horsepower peak came in 1967 with the introduction of the L88. This 427 dynoed an amazing 560 horses. But only 20 cars were built designed for the racetrack. These special Stingrays countered the challenge of Shelby's 427 Cobra. Don Sherman painstakingly rebuilt an abused 1967 drag racing Corvette into his replica L88.
The special L88 features were aluminum cylinder heads, single 4-barrel carburetor, wild camshaft, 12.5 to 1 compression, and an interesting approach to feeding air to the engine. The air filter is actually built inside the hood.
The L88 would dominate the big block wars, but Corvette horsepower would fall in the years ahead as emissions controls and unleaded gas brought down the curtain on high-performance engines. The famed 427s that survive now are the ones in the hands of collectors, preserving the awesome performance of the big block Corvette.